Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Open Mic. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. What's Open Mic? Well, every day on the John Campea Show, we take live questions near the end of the show. But here on our Open Mic episodes, that's all we do. It's just all open forum discussion, talking about anything in the world of movies you want to talk about, a little bit of television, maybe a little bit of sports here and there, whatever suits your guys' fancy. And I'll tell you what, guys, I'm a frustrated dude today. I'm a frustrated dude. You see, I am a PC gamer. All the video games I play on my PC. I used to play like Nintendo and an Xbox, the original Xbox, like way back in the day. But you know, I'm a keyboard and mouse guy. I like keyboard and mouse when I play my games. And I just have, whenever I've tried playing any console games, be they Xbox or PlayStation, I've always gotten very frustrated with the controllers. It's just not nearly as intuitive to me as keyboard and mouse. So I do all my first-person shooters, my role-playing games, my RTS games, stuff like that. I do that all on my PC. Well, here's the thing, though. There have recently been so many great games come out, where they're talking God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, things like that, that I just thought, you know, maybe I really should get one. So, over on Black Friday, there was this deal I could not pass up. There was a PlayStation 4 Pro, 1 terabyte edition, packaged with Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was supposed to be on sale for $399, but I think they made a mistake, and they actually had it on for $299, so I'm like, okay, I gotta grab this. So I grabbed myself a PlayStation 4 Pro, Red Dead Redemption 2 thing, right? First console I've bought in ages. So I bring it home last night, and Ann and I bought like a new 50-inch 4K TV for our bedroom because it was on sale for like $250. So I was like, I had no real big desire to get a 4K TV, but for $250, I'm like, okay, even a cheapo like me, I'm going to get that. So we got a new 50-inch TV for the bedroom, and I thought I'm going to put a PlayStation 4 up in the bedroom. So last night we get home, and I set up the PlayStation, and it all went pretty smooth. And then I go to install, you know, I've got the discs for Red Dead Redemption 2. Took almost 3 hours to install, so I'm like, screw it, I'll just go to bed. So I get the discs installing, and I go to sleep. Wake up this morning, I'm like, okay, I'm going to play some Red Dead Redemption 2. Fire it up, get through the opening cinematic stuff, and I start to play. And in 5 minutes, I'm ready to throw the controller through a wall. I am so frustrated. And I'm just like, I'm seriously looking at my schedule wondering if I have time today just to take this thing back to the store. Because I am so frustrated. My brain is not wired to use controllers. Like this, you know what I think the fundamental problem is for me? Is that I am so used to my gaming with a keyboard and a mouse set, I'm used to, with one movement, being able to control where I move and where I look, right? My mouse controls where I move and where I look. I think my underlying fundamental problem with console controllers is, with one control, you have to control where you move, and a completely separate control you control with where you look. And to me, that's just dumb. It's obviously not dumb because everybody else does it, but to me, it's dumb, right? And I got so frustrated after 5 minutes of trying to play this game, just threw the controller down. I was on a bed, don't worry. I'm not going to break my stuff, but I threw my controller down the bed. I'm like, screw this game, and I walked out, went downstairs and watched the Patriots play. So, but at least my Patriots won today, so there's that. So yeah, guys, I'm on the verge of taking back this PlayStation. I didn't do it just because the only reason I haven't taken it back already is because I started watching the New England Patriot football game, and my Patriots won, yay. And that's the only reason I didn't take it back already. So now I'm wondering if maybe I should give it another chance. I don't know. I'm struggling through it. Some people suggested to me that, hey, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a very complex game as far as the controls go, and that a game like Spider-Man or God of War might be a better thing to start off with. So I'm thinking maybe getting that. Spider-Man's on sale for $35 right now, so I'm thinking maybe just getting that and trying it. I don't know. But that's my first world problems, totally first world problems. But that was my frustration for the day. So, thankfully, though, it's Dungeons and Dragons night, so I get to play some Dungeons and Dragons tonight. Everybody's going to come over in a couple hours, and we're going to play that. So, anyway, guys, with me venting now out of the way, let's go over and start taking some live questions for today. And we are going to start off our live questions today, coming to us from Javier Rios 405 writes, "How are you? I hope you're having a good day." Well, it's give and take, Javier. My Patriots won. I get to play D&D tonight. That's great. Very frustrated with my PlayStation. Again, it's not the PlayStation's fault. It's my fault because my head's just not wired for it. But yeah, some happiness, some frustration. Manuel Fernandez writes, "Hey, John, hope your day is going well. Have you heard about Article 13 and are you concerned about it? How will it affect you if it becomes law?" Article 13 is a thing going on in the British Parliament right now. Some new copyright online infringement stuff. I know there's two main things. There's Article 11, there's Article 13. One has to do with taxation. One has to do with content deletion. They're calling it the meme killer. Honestly, I don't know a lot about Articles 11 or 13. I haven't read a lot about it, mostly because it wasn't even in this country. So I haven't read a lot about it. I'm not, at least I know I know the basics of it, but I don't know a lot. I don't know all the details. From my initial perusal of the stuff, though, it didn't really look like it would affect anything that I do. It may not, but it didn't look like it would affect anything that I do. But it is one of those things that I probably should, because there are a lot of people complaining about it, so I should probably get more well-versed in it. And not as a showrunner, but as a concerned net citizen, I should probably get more well-versed in it, and probably most of us should. Most of us should probably be looking into this stuff to see how it's going to affect us and affect the things that we love online. And, that's a good wake-up call, Manuel. I should probably look more into it, and the rest of you guys should look more into it as well. Dimsum05 writes, "Unpopular opinion, Fantastic Beasts 1 is my favorite movie in the Wizarding world. Fantastic Beasts 1 had more likable characters, in my opinion." Hey, I liked Fantastic Beasts 1. I did. I liked it. I think I preferred Fantastic Beasts 2, and there are certainly one or two Harry Potter films that I prefer, but you know what? In the grand scheme of the Wizarding world of Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts 1 is pretty high on my list, too. I think it's a really enjoyable little film. And, it was different from the Harry Potter movies, but of course it's different. It's a different set of characters. So I'm not far from you, Dim. So I wouldn't put it as number one, but I have it ranked higher on my overall Wizarding World list than I think a lot of other people would. One or two Harry Potter movies I prefer more than it. I think I do prefer Fantastic Beasts 2, which puts me in the minority, but that's fine. But I think I've got it pretty high on my list as well. All right, let's see. Ant Banks, 1984 writes, "Do you think at the end of Bumblebee that the last scene will be Bumblebee being left at the same car dealership from the first Transformers movie?" I doubt it. I mean, who knows where they're going to go, but that would mean, considering this movie takes place in the 80s, I believe it's the 80s that this movie takes place in, that means that he would have been sitting in a dealership for like 20 years before Sam Witwicky comes along and picks it up. And if a car doesn't get picked up in like 6 months, they trash it or they get rid of it. So I doubt. It's not impossible. I'm not writing off the possibility entirely, not at all. But I think it's pretty doubtful that that's where they end things up. Dimsum05 writes, "Dude, Wreck-It Ralph 2 is better than Creed 2. The musical number and the YouTube parody made me laugh uncontrollably." Hey, Wreck-It Ralph 2 is great. I hesitate, though, to jump in and say Wreck-It Ralph 2 is better than Creed 2, or that Creed 2 is better than Wreck-It Ralph 2. They are such different films. They're such radically different films from each other. I mean, that much is clear and obvious. They are completely different movies. But, if I had to be pressed on it, I'd probably say which one overall did I enjoy a bit more. I'd probably go Wreck-It Ralph 2. It's delightful. It's the funny thing, too, about Wreck-It Ralph 2 and Creed 2. I don't think either of them are quite as good as their originals, but both of them are still quite good on their own and very enjoyable. I had a great time watching Creed 2. I had a wonderful time watching Wreck-It Ralph 2. But I guess if I had to be pressed on it and somebody said, "Hey, you got to go out to the movies tonight and you got to see one of two films. You got to go see Wreck-It Ralph 2 again, or you got to see Creed 2 again," I'd probably find myself leaning towards Wreck-It Ralph 2 again. But they're both great. They're both absolutely wonderful. All right. Grandmaster writes, I'm quite confused. The upcoming Cats movie, are they doing motion capture cats or cat costumes or just use the original song sang by normal humans? I don't know. I don't know why you'd be confused about it, though. I mean, I just don't know at this point. Now, the live Broadway show is obviously the thing that made it so famous, is obviously just humans dressed as cats. Maybe they're going to go that way. Maybe it's going to be, CG animated cats. Maybe it's going to be a little bit different. I honestly have no idea. To be quite frank, I haven't looked a lot into it. It's not like Cats is high on my hugely high anticipated list. Look, they've got a great cast coming together. They have a really talented powerhouse cast, including Taylor Swift just for her vocals. James Corden's in there. They announced a bunch of other really great talent. Wonderful. But just on the source material level, it's not really a property that I'm like sweating to see, and I'm looking up every bit of information I can. So I don't really know which way they go. Ultimately, I don't know. I don't really care. I don't have a preference. So I'll just wait and see how they kind of reveal it. Donaldo Martinez writes, I hope we get to see Rafiki go all Bruce Lee style on them hyenas again. I don't see why they couldn't. I mean, it is animated, so they could. I hope they do too. I mean, look, here's the thing though. When going into a movie like Lion King, it's important to understand this is a new rendition of it. We shouldn't get too attached to, they better put this in it. Let's not back ourselves into a corner like that. Let's just accept this is its own movie. Let's see what they choose to put in and not put in, and whatever works best for this new interpretation of the movie. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm just like everybody else. I'm like, oh man, I want to see, Hakuna Matata. I want to see, when the hyenas come in on Scar. I want to see this. Sure. I'm like that too. But what we as fans got to do is we got to just be very careful that we don't paint ourselves into a corner and corner ourselves and say, if they don't put this in it, it's over, If they don't put, I know you're not saying this, I'm just saying, if they don't put that Rafiki using Kung Fu, then this movie's ruined. If they don't do, what we gotta resist doing is saying, they as the filmmakers have to do my laundry list of A, B, you gotta do what I want you to do or else I'm just not gonna like it. And we as film fans, myself included, you included, we are guilty of that sometimes. And we're only ultimately robbing ourselves. We just got to go into this movie and say, okay, this is a new rendition of this story. There's going to be a lot of similarities. There's going to be some differences. We already know that the song Be Prepared, that Scar song, is not going to be in the movie. There's probably going to be some other things not in the movie. And what we can't do is paint ourselves in a corner saying, put this in or I'm not going to like it. You know what I mean? Let's just go in, watch the movie as they put it together and evaluate it on its own merits, not on our own expectations. That's got to be something we got to be careful of. But I want to see Rafiki do that too, for sure. Okay. Scarlet Witch's husband writes, I think the reason Cap couldn't lift Thor's hammer in Age of Ultron was because he was still hiding that secret that Bucky killed Tony's parents. Oh, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Because that's to say, that was a flaw in him, and I don't believe it was. By the way, to me, I'm pretty sure that Civil War is a little ambiguous. Because I've got friends who believe clear-cut that scene, it's made clear that Cap knew Bucky killed Tony's parents. But I have other friends who believe very firmly that scene made it clear he didn't really know, that he knew Bucky did something, he knew something happened, blah, 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 but he didn't know it was Bucky who murdered Tony's parents. I've got friends who believe completely the opposite things on that. And I've watched Civil War dozens of times, and even I'm not so sure what the thing is. But no, I don't believe for a second that, because nobody was able to lift Thor's hammer. And Tony was able, or Cap was able to budget. Cap was able to budget. And let's not pretend that Thor doesn't have any moral weaknesses. Clearly he does. So I don't know. It's an interesting theory, Scarlet Witch's husband. I'm not going to agree with you. That doesn't mean you're wrong, but I'm just not going to agree with you on that one. All right, Jimmy Anderson writes, "Hey John, as a Swede, I'd like to have your opinion. Which one of the Skarsgårds are the best actor?" Oh, to me that's easy, Stellan, by a mile, and that's no insult to Bill. That's no insult to Alexander. That's no insult to any of his other offspring whatsoever. It's a very talented family. But Stellan Skarsgård is a world-class actor. He's world-class. Bill is becoming a good little actor. Alexander is a Hollywood actor. But Stellan is world-class. You can put Stellan Skarsgård in anything and he'll crush it. You can put him in a Thor, or you can put him in Nymphomaniac, or you can put him in A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, or you can put him in any kind of role. Stellan, you can put him in a Mamma Mia. Stellan Skarsgård will crush it every time. So to me, all due respect to his offspring, and maybe they'll grow to be as good as their old man, but Stellan Skarsgård, to me, by a mile. Like, not even close. Not even remotely close. Easiest decision ever. All right. Static Space Sean writes, "Thoughts on The Emperor's New Groove?" Didn't you just ask me about Emperor's New Groove the other day? I think it's severely underrated. P.S. Thanks for working through the long weekend and giving us lots of content. My pleasure. I love getting together with you guys talking movies. I like The Emperor's New Groove. I do. I thought it was enjoyable. It was funny. It's a solid movie. You know, it's not one of the movies that comes to mind for me when I think about some of the great animated films. It doesn't rank up there for me. And by the way, wasn't that Putty that did one of the voices? Hold on a second. Emperor's New Groove. I'm pretty sure that was Putty who did one of the voices there. I mean, David Spade obviously was one of the main voices. Say John Goodman. Patrick Warburton. Putty. He was also the voice of the Tick. Yeah, he did the voice in the movie of Kronk. So yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's really good. I don't know if I would consider it underrated. Maybe to the degree that nobody talks about it like ever. Maybe on that level, it's a little bit underrated. Not a top 10 animated film for me, but enjoyable. Definitely enjoyable. All right, here. Let's go. Murray Reich writes, "Saw Wreck-It Ralph 2 and I thought it was great. Very cute, funny, emotional. The product placements / references were a nice wink. Both end credit scenes were very good, especially the last one was a nice gag." You know what? First of all, I really enjoyed Wreck-It Ralph 2. Secondly, I messed up. I did not see either of the end credit scenes because Ann and I went to the premiere. And Disney always does an after party after their premieres. And their after parties are always great. They always serve amazing food. They always have amazing drinks and desserts. And they have like fun stations to do things. And, you know, they have all this kind of stuff. So Ann and I were like, okay, as soon as we sense the end credits are about to start, let's get out of here so it can be one of the first ones at the after party so we can, you know, get in line for food and get it really fast and grab one of the tables so we can eat and blah, 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 you know. Never thinking there was going to be post-credit scenes for Wreck-It Ralph 2. And then I think it was a day or two later, one of you guys wrote in on the show saying, "Hey, John, I heard the after-credit scenes of Wreck-It Ralph 2 were great. What did you think of them?" And I'm like, there were after-credit scenes? And I've totally missed out on them. So I do not know what they are. I've got to go back. This just gives me an excuse to go back and watch Wreck-It Ralph 2 again. I'm going to have to go back and watch it again so I can finally actually catch those end credit scenes because I screwed myself out of them the last time. But absolutely, it is cute and it's funny and it's got emotional impact. The narrative's really good. And one of the best things about it was, unlike, say, a movie and many movies, like the Emoji Movie, that throws in a ton of pop cultural references for absolutely no purpose other than just, look, everybody, a Snapchat reference. Look, everybody, this reference. Look, everybody, a Twitter reference. Like, they were pointless. They were just put in there for the sake of being there. Something like a Wreck-It Ralph, there's tons of cultural references in there, including like internet references, but they always had a point. they always had a point. And that was the big difference, and that's what makes them really fun and enjoyable as opposed to just eye-rolling, you know? And that's definitely one of the things they did great in the movie, Murray. All right, Chris Warden writes, wow, I knew Robin Hood was going to tank, but $9 million opening weekend is awful. This is beyond bad. This is King Arthur, lose the studio $200 million bad. Yikes. Yeah, I mean, they projected $10 million opening. And I was like, that's awful. And I don't really doubt it because nothing about this has looked any good. But I got to believe it's going to get closer to 12, 13, 14, 15. And it actually went under, came in at 9 million. Ralph and Creed both did very well, but we'll talk more about that on the John Campea show tomorrow morning. Our very first topic tomorrow is going to be about the box office. Some really interesting stuff that we're going to talk about tomorrow regarding that. But yeah, I mean, oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, this is people losing their jobs kind of flop. This is people losing their jobs kind of flop. This is unbelievable. And it's too bad. And you bring up King Arthur, and it is a good example. It's a good example. What sucks is I actually really like King Arthur, but yeah, it was a tremendous flop. Absolute tremendous flop, and so is Robin Hood. Murray Reich follows up. You forgot to add Frozen 2 in the top 2019 Disney box office list. Somebody clearly didn't watch the whole episode, because yes, we did talk about, in that episode, we did bring up Frozen 2 later on. Somebody brought it up, we discussed it, blah, blah. So you clearly didn't watch the whole episode, Murray. No, shame on you. Dimsum05 writes, Beauty and the Beast is my favorite animated movie of all time. It's hard to argue against. Lion King is mine, but it's hard to argue against Beauty and the Beast. But the live action movie underwhelmed. What if this happens for Lion King? Well, I mean, come on, Dim Sum. I saw a movie once that was bad. What if that means every movie I ever see is bad? There's nothing, first of all, that's a bad comparison. The Beauty and the Beast to the Lion King comparison is a very bad comparison. One was an animated classic that got turned into a live action movie. The more accurate comparison here is Jungle Book to Lion King. Because this Lion King is not a live action. I'm going to talk about this on the John Campea show tomorrow, but we've got to stop using live action when talking about this Lion King movie. There's nothing live action about this Lion King movie. It's an animated film. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. But Beauty and the Beast was a live action adaptation with a bunch of CGI, but was a live action adaptation of an animated classic. This is not. This is a CGI version of a traditional animated classic. So really the more appropriate comparison would be to Jungle Book, right? That's the more realistic comparison. I don't know if you like Jon Favreau's Jungle Book. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that you did, because Jon Favreau's Jungle Book was awesome. Jon Favreau's also doing this one. So I wouldn't do any comparisons. It's kind of an apples to spaceships comparison, trying to compare that to Beauty and the Beast. They're completely different projects, completely different movies. Really, the more accurate comparison is Jungle Book to this, and I think that's a more favorable comparison as well. Victor Watson writes, Browns won their fourth game, almost at 5. People said I was crazy at the beginning of this year. I said, guys, listen to me. This was after the Browns dropped their first 1 or 2 games. They tied one and then they lost. And I said, guys, listen to me here. This is a different Browns team than the Cleveland Browns that have won 1 game in the past 2 seasons combined. 1 game in the past 2 seasons combined. I'm saying, I'll tell you what. This Browns team is going to win 5 games this season. I believe they're going to win 5 games this season. And you have no idea how many tweets I got from people. John, stick to movies. You don't know football. Child, I know more about football than you probably will your whole life. But anyway. And everybody, you don't know what you're talking about. Cleveland's going to maybe win a game. They're maybe, blah, blah. And where are we at now? They've won 4. They've won 4. Now, can they eke out that last win and get to 5 this season? Maybe, maybe not. But, I mean, clearly, I'm a lot closer than what a lot of other people thought. And you know what? Baker Mayfield look like he's starting to adapt to the NFL game a lot more. He does look dangerous. This Cleveland Brown team now they play like a team that believes they can win, which has not been the case for the past couple of years. But now they play like they think they can win this game. Even when they lose, they play like we can win this game. And it's a totally different culture there right now. They just went through a coaching change. That's going to be interesting to see how that evolves. But I'm telling you, I'm going to stick with 5 games. And maybe they fall short and they come up with 4, still way closer than anybody else thought they would be. But I told you guys, this Browns team is a different team than the last couple of years. And I'm not a Cleveland Browns fan. But, I mean, I used to like the Browns when I was a lot younger, when like Bernie Kosar was their quarterback for a little while. But, yeah, man, this is a different team, my friends. This is a different team. All right. Let's see. Where are we at here? Trojan of Narnia. Trojan of Narnia writes, don't studios develop movies? If that's the case, how does Netflix get distribution rights for some movies? Wouldn't studios want to distribute the movies they made? Am I missing something? Well, here's the thing, Trojan of Narnia. There are 2 different and important things that go into making and putting a movie out. The production company and the distributor. Okay? Now, some of the major studios, like Warner Brothers, like Disney, like Paramount, blah, 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 they have their own production arm and they're their own distributors. But there's lots of film production companies, and most of them don't have their own distribution arm. That's an entirely different thing. Yes, a lot of the big major studios do, but a lot of the studios don't. And they don't have their own distribution arm. So production companies will make their movie, and then they partner up with the distributor, and the distributor then takes it and puts it out in theaters. So that's why you get a lot of production companies make these movies, and Netflix says, we'll distribute your films on our platform, and Netflix takes them. Now, there are also some examples of some movies that have been made by one of the big studios. Take the most recent Cloverfield movie. I can't remember the name of it. The one that were in there in outer space. The one that last minute Paramount decided to dump on Netflix. Well, Paramount has their own distribution arm. They are one of the studios that has their own distribution arm. Why wouldn't they just distribute it? Because they believed it wasn't going to make any money. Paramount, the distribution wing, kind of looked at this movie that Paramount, the production wing, made and went, it is not worth the money, time, effort, and back to money again that it's going to cost us to put this film in theaters and market it and all that kind of stuff. We just don't believe at the end of the day we're going to be able to make back the amount of money it's going to cost us to do all that. When you take into consideration the cost of making the movie in the first place, now we got to distribute it and market it. We don't believe this movie can make that money back. We believe we will lose more money if we actually go ahead and distribute this. We got an idea. Let's pawn it off on Netflix. And that's what they did. And sure enough, the movie came out on Netflix and it sucked. It sucked so bad. That movie was horrible. So, yeah, a lot of the times, they're movies made by production companies that don't have their own distribution arms, and instead of going to a traditional distributor, they go to Netflix. Sometimes, on a rare occasion, there are some examples of one of the big studios make a film, but they just go, you know what, let's just give this to Netflix. This one didn't turn out the way we thought it would. And they give it to Netflix. So that's how it goes. But yeah, the big misunderstanding there. A lot of people think every production company is their own distributor. No, most production companies are not their own distributors. The big guys do, but most of the production companies don't. So there's that. All right, Patrick Conway writes, long live the king. Scar is the best villain line. Long live the... First of all, there are so many great lines. One of my favorite lines, nobody ever talks about this. Whenever people talk about their favorite Lion King line or their favorite Scar line, nobody mentions this one, but it's one of my favorites, and I laugh myself silly every time he does. When Simba says, when as a little cub, if I'm going to be the new king, what does that make you? A monkey's uncle. I don't know. There's something in the way of the timing of the line, a monkey's uncle. And it's something about the way that Jeremy Irons voices the line that kills me every time. That monkey's uncle one is one of my favorite lines from Scar. Sen Pyrigar writes, I wonder what's going to happen with Hulk after Infinity War. I mean, I don't know. I mean, clearly, if you watched or heard about the Infinity War director's commentary, it sounds like the Russo brothers have some big plans for a big storyline with Hulk. And it revolves around Hulk being sick and tired of just being summoned when everybody else is in trouble. And he's supposed to come and take the beating, and he's supposed to come and save the day. And he's over it. Hulk is over it. Hence the big argument and battle between Bruce and Hulk. Come out. No! And like, he's just tired of it. And he's done. So it sounds to me like the Russos are setting up something pretty significant. I am not going to be surprised at all. And I will crap myself if finally Bruce and Hulk come to like an understanding of each other, an agreement between the two of them, and Hulk comes out full Hulk. And you know my feelings. I don't believe we've ever got full Hulk in any of the MCU movies. The closest I think we've ever gotten to full Hulk in the MCU movies is when the giant flying worm in the original Avengers comes flying down at them in the streets. Bruce goes, "I'm always angry," turns into the Hulk, and then one punch kills that giant thing. That's the closest we've ever gotten to what I would call full Hulk. But there's a part of me that fantasizes that as we get into Avengers 4, Bruce and him are going to have that discussion, that and then Hulk is going to come out more powerful than ever. At least that's what I'm keeping my fingers crossed for. All right. Victor Watson writes, let's see, where are we? Hey, John, I feel movies making $300 million to $600 million is a sweet spot, depending on its overall cost, as long as it's good and profitable. Well, it depends on the movie. You know, there are movies that only need to make like $100 million at the box office to be really profitable. Like, look at a lot of Blumhouse's stuff. A lot of Blumhouse's stuff they make for bus fare. Anybody got a spare 20? I need to make this movie. Sure, here's a $20 bill. Great. And then Bloom goes off and makes a movie for $20 and it makes $56 million at the box office, right? So there are movies that can make $70 million at the box office and be insanely profitable. That can make $110 million and be insanely profitable. So it all depends on the movie, and it all depends on the production costs and all that kind of stuff. For one of the big tentpole movies, $300 million isn't going to cut it. You know, because a lot of these big tentpole movies, I mean, they're starting now at like $150 million. And if your movie cost $150 million to make, $300 million ain't going to cut it. $300 million going to lose you money. At, you know, minimum, you got to start making 400 plus. Minimum, you got to start making 400 plus. And by the way, and we'll talk about this tomorrow on the John Campea Show too, as much as everybody's talking about the financial failure of Fantastic Beasts 2, guess what? It's already crossed $400 million worldwide. It's already at like $423, $425 million 2 weeks. Now, it's not going to hit $800 million, nothing like that, but guess what? People are saying, what happens if this movie, it ain't flopping. It's going to be profitable. It's going to be yet another profitable movie for Warner Brothers. And it's going to do just fine. Not going to be a big blockbuster hit, but it's going to do just fine. But yeah, for a lot of these movies, you know, once you get these movies that get into the $150 million range, then you are talking about needing to minimum make about $400 million. That's a tall order. But if you do, if you hit $400 million, you hit $500 million, you hit $600 million, yeah, you're in pretty good shape. You're in pretty damn good shape at that point, for sure. Josh Sullivan writes, as a fellow Canadian, did you ever grow up watching shows like Raccoons, The Littlest Hobo, My Secret Identity? I'm familiar with all of those shows, but the only one I even watched a little bit as a little kid was The Littlest Hobo. For those you don't know, Littlest Hobo was a movie that literally was made for bus fare, or was a show, I should say, literally made for bus fare. I think it was made by CTV. And it's about this German Shepherd. He didn't talk, he's just a dog. And he was called the Littlest Hobo because this German Shepherd, every episode was the same. He just wanders into a town, befriends some humans in town. He doesn't talk, he's just a dog, and saves the day somehow. And then at the end of the episode, he leaves town again. Everywhere I go, I make a new friend. I mean, I remember those things, and this is like going back 30 years. But anyway, I remember The Littlest Hobo. I remember Secret Identity, never watched it. I remember Raccoons, I never watched it. But as a little kid, I did watch a little bit of The Littlest Hobo. Let's see. Ben Sultan writes, Vikings versus Packers, who you got? I got the Packers. I'll be cheering for the Vikings. I'm actually a fan of Kirk Cousins. I'd like to see him succeed there. He's not had the success that he was hoping to have there. I'd like to see them win, but I just think Packers, they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder right now, and that can be a dangerous thing. Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers tonight. Senpaigar writes, love the end credits for Ant-Man and the Wasp. Oh, so did I. I was actually surprised. For some reason, I didn't see it coming. You know why a lot of people didn't see it coming? Because the nature of the snap is so out of step with the tone of the rest of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And that worked in their favor. So you had this certain tone throughout Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I thought was great. Again, not as good as the first Ant-Man, but I thought it was great nonetheless. And it just does not have your mind in a place that you would expect that particular post-credit scene. And that is a good example of something being out of step with the rest of the tone of the movie, but that working in its favor. Sometimes that can be jarring and it doesn't work. Most of the time, when you do something that's out of step with the rest of the movie, it's jarring and it kind of pulls you out of the movie. But this thing in Ant-Man and the Wasp was a good example of when they actually used it to their favor and used it to surprise a lot of people. Not everybody was surprised. A lot of people were expecting a snap reference at some point, but it did surprise a bunch, and I think because it was so out of tone with the rest of the film, that's why it set it up so perfectly there. Patrick Conway writes, will Dusted Heroes return at the same place in Avengers 4? No idea. I honestly have no idea. I mean, it's possible. I mean, I really don't know how they're going to handle this. First of all, the dusted characters may not return in the traditional way we would think of them returning. Like, they are now undusted. For all I know, the universe, at the end of Avengers 4, the universe gets remade. Right? And it's a totally new universe with identical copies of all the heroes from this old universe. And it all gets restarted and rebooted. Existence gets rebooted or something like that. Some kind of cop-out. Either way, it's more fake deaths. They killed Spider-Man. Spider-Man's coming back. They killed Black Panther. Black Panther's coming back. They killed this guy. Oh, don't worry, he's coming back. They killed Bucky. Don't worry, he's coming back. They're all coming back. Fake deaths. Whether it's an undusting or whether it's recreation of the universe or whether it's whatever kind of plot device they want to use, it's just, again, more fake deaths from Marvel. And don't get me wrong, I loved Infinity War. I loved it. And I can't wait to see Avengers 4. But just because I love it, that doesn't mean I'm going to stick my head in the sand and pretend like it's not just more of Marvel doing their fake deaths. Like, I talked about this before. I've complained about this before, but it's absolutely true. One of the bad things about all these fake deaths is that I know for a fact I didn't get nearly the emotional response out of myself for, like, say, the death of Spider-Man in the movie, because I knew, oh, it's just Marvel, he's coming back. Like, it was still a great scene. It's a great scene, and I loved it. The problem is, in my head, I know Marvel's done this 1,000 times. Oh, look, they're killing a guy. No, he's not dead. He's coming back. Don't worry about it. He's not dead. And that affected how much I was able to enjoy. And I still enjoyed it, but affected how much I was able to enjoy the ending of Avengers Infinity War. Because, oh, look at all these characters dying. Such a momentous occasion in the MCU. No, it's not real. They're all coming back. This is just more fluff. This is more smoke. It's great, and I enjoyed it and I had fun, but I just wasn't able to enjoy it as much as some people who are blissfully ignorant of the fact that Marvel kills and unkills all their people all the time. Nobody's really dead in this universe. And that is unfortunate. It's going to affect them moving forward. Let's see. Where am I at here? Scar writes, I'm surrounded by idiots. And again, another great line from Scar in that movie. I am going to miss Jeremy Irons' voice in that role. I love Chiwetel Ejiofor. I can't wait to see what he does in it, but I am going to miss Scar's voice in that thing. Jeremy Irons. Senpaigar writes, What do you think of The Prestige? Oh, I love The Prestige. I did not love the ending, though. I thought the ending... You know, we were just talking about how the post-credit scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp was out of step with the rest of the movie. I thought the ending of The Prestige was a little bit of a cop-out. And a little bit of, okay, now it just became pure science fiction. And now it became the ending. And I'm not going to give it away just in case you guys haven't seen it. But the ending resolve of that movie made me go, oh, come on, really? But the rest of the movie I thought was great. If it wasn't for the fact that I was so unsatisfied with the very ending of the film, it would probably maybe even rank in my top 3 favorite Christopher Nolan movies. It's still a movie I very much enjoy and I think is very good. But yeah, it's just the ending that I didn't dig. Okay, let's see. Victor Watson writes, hey, John, I grew up in the 60s and read the comics a lot. The movies has made the Hulk not near as strong as I remember him back in the 70s. Well, that's the thing too, right? And I've talked about this before. I'll mention here again quickly. You know, in the first Avengers, everybody talks about the monster. And even the fact that they had Bruce Banner and Hulk on that ship, on the helicarrier, was a big deal. Even Loki knew that's our main threat. The monster. That's the main threat. And then they gave us a glimpse of that with him taking out the flying worm and jumping from building to building, just taking out all the Chitauri left, right, and center and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, that thing about the comic Hulk, and it all depends on which rendition of the comic, because there have been many renditions of the Hulk. But that classic idea that there is just no theoretical limit to the strength of the Hulk. In theory, the angrier he gets, and there's no limit to that, the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. Theoretically, there is no measurable limit to just how powerful the Hulk can be. Hence, the way everybody talks about the monster in terms of great fear in the first Avengers movie, but they've never realized that. They've never materialized that. They've actually kind of depowered him a little bit. And I'm just very curious and very hopeful, Victor, that as we move into Avengers 4, that we start to see that Hulk. I'm just hoping for that. Well, whether or not they're going to do that, I don't know, but I'm just kind of hoping for it. All right. Ben Sultan writes, have you ever watched your YouTube rants and do you enjoy them? Well, here's the thing. One of the first bits of instruction, whenever I'm doing like video tutorials or speaking at a convention or something about people asking how to do things, one of the things I tell people is this. Lots of people do podcasts or YouTube videos, but they don't like watching themselves. And I tell everybody, look, the number one tool to try to make yourself better at this is when you're finished a podcast, or if you're finished writing an article. First of all, once you finish writing an article, read your article 10 times. Read it. And pretend for a minute that you're not you. Pretend you're somebody just reading this article for the first time. Read it. Start to understand. Start to recognize your patterns, your weaknesses, your strengths, all that kind of stuff. And I tell people that when you do podcasts or videos, the first thing you should do, and I used to tell my staff this all the time, who are on camera as well, the first thing you need to do that day, think of it as a part of work. You need to go home and you need to watch that video you were on and watch it 3 or 4 times. And study yourself. That is the best way to improve. So in asking, have I watched my YouTube rants? Oh, I've seen my YouTube rants. Yes, I have definitely seen my YouTube rants. I've seen them, I've watched everything because I watch everything that I've done on video. I go over it. I review it. I try to identify where am I starting to make mistakes? Where am I getting particularly strong at? And I try to I'm just always trying to get better. I'm just trying. That's the best you can do is try to get better. Senpaigar writes, are you aching for some bacon? Here's a big pig. You could be a big pig too. That's from Lion King, right? When they're baiting in the hyenas with Pumbaa, I think it was. I think that's where it's from. I could be wrong about that. Correct me in the chat section if I do. Great moment in the film. He's got the skirt on. It's a ridiculous scene. Murray Reich writes, You're just a chicken. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Um, um, oh, uh, your chicken mark, cheap, chirp, chirp, or whatever it is. I think that's from The Room. I think it is. I could be wrong about that. Josh Sullivan writes, best comedic duo in a movie, Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly in Step Brothers, or Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels in Dumb and Dumber. Thanks for being awesome. Well, thanks a lot for that, Josh. Ooh, that's a Sophie's choice. That's a tough one. Two of my all-time favorite comedies right there. Man. I mean, overall, I would say Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, because we've seen them do it more times. By the way, I thought Dumb and Dumber 2 was better than most other people thought. Woo. By a hair. You know what? I might give a totally different answer on this tomorrow. Right now, by a hair, I'll go Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels in Dumb and Dumber. But I might give a completely different answer if you ask me the same question tomorrow. But for now, I'll slightly lean towards a tough question. I'll slightly lean towards Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. All right. Senpaigar writes, first Hot Tub Time Machine was such a good surprise to me. I thought it was going to be a throwaway. Now I'm going to search up something on Loogle. I am totally in agreement. Hot Tub Time Machine did not look all that good to me. I wasn't all that interested in it. And I wasn't even really going to watch it. But I was working for AMC at the time. And they were doing the press junket. Most of the time they do press junkets just in Beverly Hills. They do it at this hotel called the Beverly Hills Hilton. They rent out a floor at the Beverly Hills Hilton, and that's where they do the press junkets. That's where 90% of the press junkets happen. But for this movie, they actually rented out a chalet in just somewhere outside of Reno, in Lake Tahoe. Is that where it was? Maybe it was Lake Tahoe. Anyway, they rented out this chalet in the wintertime, right? And they had all the journalists fly out there, and they put on this thing, and that's where you did the press junket. It was actually quite fun. But since I was going to do that, I was like, well, I got to watch the movie because I'm going to cover the press junket. And I thought Hot Tub Time Machine was so funny. I thought it was so funny. So much so that even though John, why am I forgetting John's last name? I'm forgetting John's last name. The lead actor for Hot Tub Time Machine. John Cusack. I was going to say Joan's brother. Okay. That even though John Cusack wasn't going to be in the sequel, I still thought the sequel was going to be amazing. And I thought the trailers for Hot Tub Time Machine 2 were very funny. You know? You look like Gandalf the Poor. I mean, the trailers were hilarious. So disappointed in Hot Tub Time Machine 2 compared to Hot Tub Time Machine 1. So, by the way, guys, if you guys have not seen the first Hot Tub Time Machine, treat yourself. Go watch Hot Tub Time Machine. Then you'll get the Loogle reference there. Denmar95 writes, my favorite hero movie is The Thing, or horror movie, sorry, is The Thing with Kurt Russell. Hard to argue against that. The Thing is also good. One of the bullets in my gun there that I use when people want to debate whether or not remakes can ever be good. Kurt Russell's The Thing is a remake, by the way. That's one of the ones, but it's great. Hard to argue against. I mean, mine is American Werewolf in London, but yeah, The Thing is that's a great movie. That's a hard one to vote against. Mr. Spooky Spare writes, hey, John, congratulations on your PS4 Pro. Well, I'm going to guess you wrote that in before I talked about my Sorrow story at the beginning of the show. Yeah, still 50% chance I take that back tonight, guys. 50% chance I return it tonight. But thank you for the well wishes, Mr. Spooky. Let's see. ZOMG Ruler writes, sorry, not sorry. In my opinion, Batman vs. Superman Ultimate Edition equals the best superhero movie. Well, completely disagree with you, but that is the beautiful thing about the subjectivity of movies. Look, I think Batman vs. Superman. I think Man of Steel is one of the 10 greatest comic book movies ever made. But I am very much in the minority in that. But that's the beauty of the subjectivity of film. Like, I don't even think the Ultimate Edition was all that much of an improvement on the original edition. It's an improvement, but marginal. I thought it was marginally improved. The big mistake, I still believe that the big mistake they made with the Ultimate Edition is that they added a whole ton of stuff without editing anything else out. And they just went bleh, and just poured more in. Just add more is not the answer. You add some cool things, but, then edit it more, make the movie flow. And I think the Ultimate Edition could have been even better if they actually did some editing instead of just throw in more. I think it's a movie that could have benefited a lot from some editing. But I'm one of the guys that likes Batman versus Superman. I like that. I don't think it's in the top 10 best comic book movies of all time, but to you, it's your all-time favorite. And that's all that's important, man. That's the subjectivity of film. Let's see. Senpaigar writes, Supernatural is my favorite TV show. My friend sent me pictures of her dad had sent her of him and the Impala on location. I was oh my God, I would be jealous. I would be so jealous. Anne doesn't watch Supernatural, but she knows it's one of my favorite shows. And so whenever we see an Impala, she's saying, John, Supernatural. And we look over, it's like, whenever I see an Impala, it just makes me think of Supernatural. I get all excited about it. Still one of my favorite shows. Has been for a long time now. It's got to be going on 10 years. Because I didn't start watching Supernatural when it started. Because it just looked like a throwaway CW show, right? So, but it has been consistently one of my favorite shows for 10 years. I just get a kick out of it. And mainly because it's not about the plot. It's about the characters. And I think somewhere along the lines, the guys behind Supernatural understood that the strength of Supernatural was the characters, not their story. Although their story's great, and when you have great story with great characters, you got the sweet spot. But they understand their main strength and the things that we love the most about it is just the characters. I tune in to see the story, yes, but mostly I tune in just to spend an hour hanging out with Sam and Dean and Castiel and Crowley for a while and the rest of the guys. I tune in to hang out with them for an hour. And they've always put most of their attention on that, and it's just made it one of my favorite shows for a long time. Denmar95 writes, favorite superhero / Christmas movie is Batman Returns. I wouldn't even know what other films would qualify to be considered a superhero / Christmas movie. I'm not even sure what other films are in that category, so I don't know if I can have one off the top of my head, but you've brought up some interesting food for thought there, Denmar. All right, Dervunderbar writes, are you planning to watch the new Watchmen series? Not really. Look, of course I'm going to give it a shot. I have no excitement for it. None. I have zero excitement for it. But I don't think it's a dumb idea. I don't think the show's a stupid idea. I'm not sitting here asking, why are they even doing this? I'm not doing that, but there's nothing about this other than, the aforementioned Jeremy Irons' involvement in it. Pardon me, that's intriguing to me. So we'll see. So I will check it out, but it's not like I've already put it down on my dance card that, hey, for the next 4 months, I'm going to be watching Watchmen once a week, every week. Not really. I will check it out. I will give it a shot, and then we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll be awesome. Maybe it'll be terrible. We'll have to wait and see. Richard Karate writes, do you think we can get an Ian McKellen returning as Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings Amazon series? Dude, I would give it like a 25% chance. That still means unlikely. But I would go as high as like a 25% chance. I believe there is a legitimate possibility we will see him return as Gandalf. I think he's even talked about it a little bit. He's never said he's going to, but I think he's teased it a little bit. So I don't know. All depends, but I will not be surprised at all. So I don't think it's likely that's going to happen, but I think there's a legitimate possibility, so much so I will go as high as 25%. I think there's a 25% chance we'll see it. And I think it would be a good move. Because from a marketing point of view, you're telling the audience this is connected to that world. That world you remember on the big screen, this is connected to that. I don't know how good or bad of a narrative move that'll be because I don't know what the narrative of their show is going to be. But what it does mean is that they have, and my camera turned off. What the heck just happened? My camera just turned off. Don't worry, guys. I will get the camera turned back on here. Give me a second here. What were we talking about? Oh, yes. So I don't know how much of a narrative thing, good or bad, that will be. But I think from a marketing perspective, it would be a very good move. You know what, Hollis? I'm just going to see what's going on with my camera here. I don't know why the camera just suddenly turned off. Give me a second. Oh, the wonders of not being in my studio and I'm home by myself doing this stuff. Okay, I just shut down and restarted my my camera here. So give me a second to see if I can find out why this is happening here. This is the wonders of doing things live when I'm not in a studio with my staff here. I might have to just, somebody saying in the chat board, Thanos snapped. Yes, Thanos snapped. I might have to see if I can pull out one of my webcams and just plug in a webcam and do this thing on my webcam. Give me one quick second here, guys. Well, you know what, guys? I can't find my webcam. So, what I am going to do is I am going to put up something here. This is going to seem a little bit ridiculous, but bear with me as I do this. I'm going to if I can get this to work. I think I can get this to work. 1 second. Oh, this is so embarrassing. I hate that this is happening. I really do. I hate that this is happening. Okay, here. The best I can do right now is give you guys, while I figure out what my problem is. There we go. Okay, so for the rest of the show, guys, you're just going to have to look at my smiling face. At my smiling face, and we go audio for the rest of the show. But at least it's something, and we'll get us through it while I try to figure out why my camera suddenly went out of bounds on me here. Okay, so with that, let's keep going here. Murray Reich writes, former Browns head coach Hugh Jackson finally helped the Browns win today. Well, that's a little mean. That's a little bit mean. Of course, Hugh Jackson, former coach of the Browns, he's now, I believe, is a defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. And so, yeah, they did have some massive defensive collapse there. Ben Rayner writes, Hakuna Matata, John. Well, thank you so much, Ben. Hakuna Matata to you. Victor Watson writes, hey, to follow up my comment earlier, as long as it's profitable, depending on its cost, and yes, the more, the better. Well, yes, and Victor, and we did go into that a little bit, of course, talking about your comment about and as long as it makes $300 to $600 million, yes, absolutely. It depends on where the profitability line lies. Where is that profitability line for it? And if it can work there, then great. Then you're all good. Let's see. Der Wunderbar writes, How to Get Away with Murder is a great show. You know, I keep hearing that's a pretty good show. I've never watched a single episode of it. Not a single episode. But it's won awards. It gets a lot of fan and critical acclaim. People seem to really like it. I hear nothing but good things about it, but it's never really looked like it was a show for me, so I've never given it a shot. Patrick Conway writes, will Fury and Hill be in the Far From Home trailer? I'm going to guess yes. Maybe not the first one. Maybe not the first one. Like, I'm not willing to say, oh yeah, for sure they're going to be in the first trailer. I'm not so sure about that. But I do think you're going to see them pop up in the trailer in general. Let's see here. Hold a second. Okay, sorry, I just had to text something to my wife there, who was trying to get a hold of me. So I think, yes, we will see them in the trailer, just not in the first one. Richard Karate writes, with semi-retired pro wrestlers like The Rock and John Cena acting in movies now, do you think with CM Punk no longer wrestling and the UFC failure, do you think he will now transition into movies? I don't know. It would be a very tough thing. First of all, not everybody can be in movies. And let's be honest here, John Cena's not a good actor. He has some limited ability to do some comedic stuff pretty well. We saw that in Trainwreck, there was another movie, the one he was in with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. I think it was Sisters. So we saw it like that in Sisters. We saw that in Trainwreck. He has a very limited range that if he sticks in his little safety net, if he sticks in his little niche, he can work. But then again, we saw Blockers, right? Where he was the lead guy in Blockers. And he did not work. It's still a funny movie. And it's not like John Cena ruined the movie. But it's clear he's not a leading man. He cannot lead a movie per se, right? That's what we saw with Blockers. So really, there's only one wrestler that's ever been able to come out and really develop and grow and cultivate his image and his performance where you could say he is a legitimate Hollywood actor, and that's The Rock. It's only been once. Not just anybody can jump on a screen and act, and I don't know that CM Punk is that. Not to mention, CM Punk's marketability now is much lower than it was 4 years ago. You know, if he had tried to transition years ago from professional wrestling into acting when his name was still front and center and so many more people were aware of him and were fans of him still, maybe then. But that's not where he's at now. So, he can try to transition to movies, but no one's ever been able to do it except really The Rock. John Cena's having some success to a degree, but he's also being exposed that the dude can't act. So, I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. Sinpaigar writes, I'm a big Transformers fan, so my movie of choice over the holidays was always going to be Bumblebee, but even I like what I'm seeing from Aquaman. Dude, listen, I'm not going to lie, like a lot of people, I'm like, really? You're going to do a standalone Aquaman movie? Like when the first whispers of it came out. But once they got a Jason Momoa and especially once they got James Wan on to direct, like I think that's when myself and probably a lot of other people really sat up and started taking notes. Wait, whoa. James Wan is directing it? Really? That's when it became, a lot more appealing. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm dying to see Aquaman. But I'm very curious about the Bumblebee movie as well. I've already got my advance tickets for both of those films. Ben Hayusa writes, just came out of watching Ralph Breaks the Internet. So much fun and more charm than the first, in my opinion. Dang it, man tears at the end of both movies. Wreck-It Ralph is such a good franchise. It's such a good franchise. And I'll tell you what, there were moments in Wreck-It Ralph 2. When I sort of felt like, this thing might lose its footing. This could fall into just silliness, a sequel silliness sort of thing. But every time I felt like they were getting close to falling off that cliff of just going into sequel silliness, they pull it back and they deliver something really strong, And yeah, I adore the film. Guys, if you haven't checked it out, do by all means check out Wreck-It Ralph. KW Garrett writes, U.S. Geological Survey says a group of cockroaches is an intrusion. By the way, all the good December movies get released after December 12th. Next 2 weeks are bleak. Well, what are the next 2 weeks? Let me just take a look here. Because I don't remember them off the top of my head. So if I look at the release schedule, this is what we got. We got The Possession of Hannah Grace. Wow, coming on. That's the big release, The Possession of Hannah Grace. Then we got limited releases like Anna and the Apocalypse, Sicilian Ghost Story, things like that. And then December 7th, nothing. Why didn't one of these movies move back to December, like to November 30th or December 7th? Then we got Ben is Back, Central Park, Divide and Conquer. So nothing significant. Nothing significant at all. The biggest thing is Schindler's List 2018 re-release. That's about it. And then comes December 14th with Mortal Engines, The Mule, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Once Upon a Deadpool, and then, of course, Aquaman, Bumblebee, Second Act, Welcome to Marwen. Where's Mary Poppins? Oh, Wednesday. They got that set on the 19th. Yeah, Mary Poppins on the 19th. I mean, and They Shall Not Grow Old, by the way. Also, a limited release, but They Shall Not Grow Old. That's the new Peter Peter Jackson World War I documentary that looks amazing. So that's looking pretty good too. But you're right, KW, the next 2 weeks do look pretty bleak. All right. Denmar95 writes, my favorite antagonist is Don Quixote's Don Flamingo from One Piece. I know you have no idea who this is, just wanted to mention it. Don Flamingo is greater than Vega. Well, you lost me already, Den. Now, I've never seen One Piece. I've never seen One Piece. I mean, I know the classic characters, Don Quixote and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think I've ever seen One Piece. But, instantly you lost me. As soon as you say somebody's greater than Vader, you lost me. You lost me there, buddy. Der Wunderbar writes, MacGyver Forever, it's a classic. And, MacGyver's great. I never did watch the reboot of it. And I bet a lot of you guys went, wait a minute, they've rebooted MacGyver? Yeah, they rebooted MacGyver. I think it had a couple of seasons, but I never saw a single episode of it. I never gave it a chance. But yeah, the original is totally classic. And of course, it spawned that great Saturday Night Live MacGruber sketches. MacGruber. They even made a MacGruber movie, which was terrible. It was terrible. Don't let anybody fool you. That movie was terrible, but whatever. Victor Watson writes, Runaways Season 2, December 21st. Oh, yeah. I cannot wait, Victor. I love The Runaways. I think The Runaways is just a sharp, wonderful show and a great example of take the original source material, use what you can from it, but also adapt it to be the best live action on screen thing you can from the comics. Because I love the comics, Runaways. The Runaways show is clearly The Runaways, but it's also very different. But I think in all the best ways, it's a great example of needing to do adaptation. And yeah, I cannot wait for season 2. Cannot wait for it. All right. Josh Sullivan writes, hey, John, what are your thoughts on the Jackass trilogy? I know they are not up there with Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. To me, I thought they were pretty good. Thanks again. You know what? There were 2 of them I did not like. And then one I absolutely loved. I think it might be Jackass 3D that was the one that I can't remember if it was the second one or the third one that I loved. But one of them I adored. The other ones were just meh. But one of them I thought was absolutely spectacular. And I cannot I know it wasn't the first one. I think the first one for me I was like, meh. But then it was either the second one or the third one. I can't remember which one it was. But one of them I absolutely loved. And I can't remember which one it is now. But yeah, you can go back and watch those anytime. Mark C. writes, did you get a chance to watch the terrible 1980 film Super Fuzz? No, I never did. I probably won't have the chance to do it. My time is quite limited. So I have not had a chance to go back and watch it. I probably won't have a chance to go back and watch it, unfortunately. But I know a number of people have mentioned it a few times. Cody Carroll writes, Lion King versus William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Hamlet, but I don't know if you're asking something ironically or not. So I'm not quite sure, Cody Carroll. Anyway, Ike Moore writes, what's more likely, Wreck-It Ralph 3 or Creed 3? I would say Wreck-It Ralph 3 is more likely. Look, I haven't heard anybody say that they're not doing another Creed movie. I haven't heard anybody say they're not doing another Creed movie. But I just kind of felt watching Creed 2, and I'm not going to give anything away, but I just felt like this is the end of this series. I have nothing really definitively to base that on. I'm just saying, watching Creed 2, I kind of felt like this is the end of the run for this. And I love it. But again, they might do Creed 3, but right now I'd say absolutely the more likely one is Ralph 3. Daryl Best Wiley writes, are you a fan of the Home Alone movies? First one is best. Well, absolutely. The first one's great. I don't even, this is how much I didn't care about the other one. Don't even remember. I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in the preceding films after that. The first one, all-time classic. No doubt all-time classic. I can't even remember what happens in the other ones. Let's see. Factual Opinion writes, Wreck-It Ralph 2 was awesome, but the singing was crap. The singing was great. What are you talking about, Faction Opinion? The singing was marvelous. I love the singing in it. But hey, not everything is for everybody. That's totally cool. Joshua Howard writes, do you think the comic book films would have the same amount of success if each one was the exact same, but done much like Beowulf, using performance motion capture? Oh, no, they would. No, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. The performance capture, first of all, I love that Beowulf movie. I think that Beowulf movie is great. With Crispin Glover as well. as the creature. I really enjoyed Beowulf a lot. But it's not the right medium for everything, and not everybody's into that medium. And it really wouldn't be. See, one of the big things about the modern, Robert Meyer Burnett talks about this all the time. One of the big things that contributes to the success of these comic book movies today is that you get people who are like, I never would have ever imagined we could actually have these heroes, these things I've read on the comic book pages come to life. Animation's a different thing. And it would have undermined that whole notion of you're actually seeing it play out in live action. So do I think it would have had the same amount of success? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because it would have taken away that big major element. So I'm going to go, I mean, obviously I can't prove that. There's no way any of us can prove it. But no, I don't think it would have had anywhere near the same amount of success. Not anywhere near the same amount. All right, Rami J. Royster writes, Creed 2 was amazing. It's one of the movies that helps me get inspired to not only work out, but to overcome no matter what challenges get in my way. Oh yeah, man. I mean, look, when you see a movie like Rocky 4, or you see a movie like Creed 2, and that you are just, grrr, I want to go out and go hit the gym right now. I mean, that is one of the great benefits of these movies with them. By the way, I didn't like the musical montage all that much in Creed 2. I think I enjoyed the musical, training montage stuff that we got in the first Creed and the Rocky movies a lot better. I thought the musical montage stuff, I'm talking specifically about the music, not the action, not what was happening on screen, but the music. I wasn't as into it. It wasn't nearly as fist pumping, But yeah, that is one of the things those movies makes you want to do, Rami, for sure. Daryl Best Wiley writes, what's best, Dumb and Dumber, Mask, or Ace Ventura? Ooh. Well, I love The Mask. But I will take that out. Whew. I'll go Dumb and Dumber. I love all three of these films completely. Ace Ventura has a very special place in my heart. Mask, I watched that movie like a million times when I was younger. But I'm going to have to go Dumb and Dumber. Cody Carroll writes, I think they will have the Mufasa ghost scene in the new film because it was a big part in both Hamlet and The Last Lion King. It would be cool. I'm not going to argue against it, Cody. See, what Cody is referring to is the other day on the show, I mentioned that, we know they're going to take some things out of this new incarnation of Lion King that were in the original animated things. We know they're going to take some things out. Which things will they take out? I kind of believe that one of the things they may, I'm not saying they will, I'm saying they may take out is that scene where Simba is looking up to the stars and the stars reform to look like Mufasa and the ghost of Mufasa speaks to Simba. I'm not saying they will take it out. I'm just saying I think they may. I think they might. That's all I'm saying. There's certainly, and you raise a couple of good issues, there are certainly good arguments to suggest why they would keep it in there. But I think it might be one of those things in this new medium that they're using that could be one of the things that might feel a little bit out of place. We'll find out pretty soon, and I won't be surprised either way. I won't be surprised if they keep it in. I won't be surprised if they take it out. Matthew Denton writes, have you ever burned out of watching movies? Nah, never have. Honestly, never have. The only thing I've burned out, I remember this one time, there was like 5 days in a row, I had to go cross town to watch a screening. And doing that in Los Angeles is a pain in the ass. And I remember I was burnt out of having to go do that, but not burned out of just sitting down and watching movies. So no, I can also say I've never burned out of just watching movies. Dan Ketchum writes, just realized superheroes equal Greek god pantheon. Yes and no. I mean, certainly there have been many people that have made that connection before. And the similarities are great and the influences are certainly clear there. I don't know if I agree with that connection because you're not the only one, Dan, who makes that connection. I'm just not totally sure I agree with it, but I can totally see why some people would. Matthew Denton writes, what's the longest you went without going to the theater? Oh, gosh. I don't know. Because even when I go out of town, like when we go to Vegas, if I'm in Vegas for more than 3 days, I always go to the theater at least once when I'm there. When I go home to Canada for Christmas and everything, we always make trips to the theater. I can't remember the last time I went more than, say, I don't know. Maybe the most would be like 4 days. Maybe there was once or twice where I maybe went 4 days without going to a theater. It's certainly not often though. Der Wunderbar writes, I was addicted to the hokey pokey, but turned myself around. Okay, that's cute. That's cute. Let's see. And then we had a big jump. Gosh, we still have more of a jump. There we go. Okay. And you know what, guys? We're just going to wrap up with a couple ones here since my camera is out and all that kind of stuff. And we're already at like an hour and 20 minutes. So I'll just wrap up with just 2 more here. And then we'll pick this up another time. Darth Impact writes, over under 25% that the MCU have a flop during Phase 4. Oh, I'll go over 25%. Oh, wait a second. Flop? I think it's certainly over 25% that we'll get a bad movie. I'll take over 25% that we'll at least get one bad movie, but flop? Remember, it depends on your interpretation of flop. A lot of people like to bend and twist. Look, flop is when it loses the studio a lot of money. Some people will call a movie that breaks even or makes a little bit of money, oh, it flopped. No, it didn't. Well, for the MCU, it flopped. Well, that's not what a flop is. A flop is when a movie loses a studio tons of money. Chances that one of the Phase 4 Marvel films loses Disney a lot of money, I'll take way under 25%. Way under 25%. There hasn't been, in Phase 3, there hasn't been a single movie that's even come close to just breaking even. Everything is super exceeded breaking even and making tons of money. So, flopping? Oh, I'll take under 25% for sure. Thunder Knight will be the last question of the day here. Thunder Knight writes, thoughts on Conor McGregor's Twitter banter with WWE star Becky Lynch? Does this mean anything for WrestleMania? I have no idea. I don't give one shit about Conor McGregor. So I have no idea what it is we're even talking about. I didn't even know there was Twitter banter between them, so I don't care. Rami J. Royster writes, in my opinion, this season of Arrow is much better in years. I'm going to agree. And I don't think that this year Arrow is great, but to say that it's the best they've done in a long time, I would have to agree. It is a marked improvement. I really do. I think this year's Arrow is much improved over the last couple of years for sure. All right. And now the last one I'm going to take is I'm Upset writes, thoughts on year 1 with Jack Black. Oh my God, that was awful. Oh, year 1 was terrible. I had almost successfully blocked that one completely out of my mind, but you brought it back. Thanks so much for that. I'm upset. Yeah, no, it was absolutely terrible. Just awful. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Sorry that the camera went out there halfway through. I haven't had a chance to investigate the problem. I don't know why it suddenly just disappeared, but that's what happens when I'm doing the show by myself live in a studio with no tech support around me. If we were in studio, we could have fixed this by now. But anyway, sorry about that, guys, but do not worry. For the rest of you guys, from Der Wunderbar all the way down, I will take these questions. They will get addressed in a companion video, so don't worry. Your questions will get answered in a video where you can actually see my face and not just a still picture of me. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.